engagement and expanding voting rights access. And Brittany Packnett-Cunningham, the co-founder of Campaign Zero, former member of President Obama's 21st Century Policing Task Force. She is also one of our newest MSNBC contributors as well. Ladies, thank you. Brittany, we just heard from just a few voters of color there in South Carolina. That was the Low Country. That was Charleston. We should point out they certainly do not speak for all voters there. But do you get the sense so far that candidates are doing enough right now to address both the broad and distinct concerns within the larger group of black voters that make up such a large part of the Democratic base?
Well, I think Tremaine's point is absolutely well made. We have to recognize that not only are black voters not a monolith, but they want to be treated, we want to be treated with the level of sophistication that our lives bring. Black folks are interested in politics because we have to be. Our lives are constantly inundated with political choices and the consequences of those choices. And so we are constantly involved and engaged in these conversations, not just in churches, not just at barbershops, but at bars and at brunch. And we have to make sure that campaign operatives are actually meeting us in those places. The other thing I think is happening consistently is we are seeing a lot of campaign messages targeted toward black people about what we are fearful of, about the things that we want black voters to vote against. And we don't hear enough campaigns that are doing enough to talk about what black voters should be voting for. I think it was incredibly powerful in New Hampshire during the debate when Elizabeth Warren said we can't just talk about race and about black folks when we're talking about criminal justice. Black voters are interested in health care, climate change, education, and so much more because we, just like everyone else, are affected by all of it. We need to hear from candidates who are bringing us a vision of what tomorrow can be and not just a campaign promise about what will stop because people are fearful of it.
Latosha, what are your thoughts on the way that racism so far have been tackled by the candidates so far in this election, and when especially you consider the now glaring lack of diversity in the Democratic field? No more Kamala Harris, no more Andrew Yang, no more Cory Booker, no more Julian Castro.
You know, I think what Brittany said, I think is absolutely right. I think that there's this idea, there's this misunderstanding that the only thing that black voters care about is beating Trump. And while there is really important that we do want to see a different kind of leadership, and we understand the danger that having a white nationalist who is aligned with white supremacists in the highest office in the land, we understand the implications of that on in our community. But we also are moved and are looking for what is going to change the structural conditions in our community, what is going to actually help put more money in our pockets, what is going to help us when we're talking about access to health care. And so I think that we really need to think about when we've seen the highest turnout in elections. I'll go back to the Obama election. It wasn't based on just fear and the culture of fear, but it was actually that he brought this message of hope. And so I think part of what is missed in this process when we're talking about even from race and racism, that even in the context I've seen, the political context of the discussion, it is as if the only thing that black voters will respond to is fear, when the fact of the matter is this has to be beyond this culture of fear, that what black voters are looking for, we're looking for hope. And unfortunately, I think that part of the issue of race has been used in a very surface way, that it is, oh, everybody is anti-racism and, you know, we've got to address that. I am looking for, and I'm hearing this from other voters, we're looking for people who are bold enough that can really talk about the policies that actually will deal with the structural racism that we're facing in this country, the structural racism in the criminal justice system, the structural racism even in access to health care and who has access to health care, the structural racism as it relates to the wealth inequities. So I think part of what we've got to do is a little bit more than just talk about race and say racism is bad. We are looking for remedies that can actually deal with those problems that have plagued our communities.
The latest poll that we have shows a drop in support.